So can you tell me what you want to achieve at COP29 for the UK and for the rest of the world?
We're going to be announcing our climate target for 2035, and it's going to be ambitious and it's going to be aligned with 1.5 degrees. We want to work with other countries to make sure that poorer countries, developing countries, have the climate finance they need so that they can move into renewables and cheaper, cleaner forms of power. So they're the things that we'll be focusing on at COP29.
And how are you going to do those things? Because they're quite big things to say.
So we're going to be ambitious when it comes to our target, which means all of our power sources being either nuclear or renewables by 2030. We won't issue new oil and gas licenses. We then want to use, with the power of our example, saying that we're doing this is the leadership we're showing, join us and be part of this.
Donald Trump was recently re-elected as the President of the United States of America.
Yes.
And in the past, he's been heavily criticised for calling climate change a scam. So how do you plan on convincing him, that climate change is an issue?
The US and the UK are close allies, and obviously it's for the US population to elect its leaders, and we work with any government that's elected. And what we'll be doing with Trump is finding areas of common ground. You've got to respect the judgments that different countries make and who they elect as their leaders, and then you work together to find areas of common agreement where you can move forward.
No one's been able to change his mind, so why do you think that you'll be able to?
I think it's really, really important to see what happens when President Trump comes to power. We want to work with, all countries to move forward on this really, really important agenda.
Do we really need to be flying politicians in from all over the world for this meeting? I mean, it kind of counteracts the whole reason for the meeting. Can't it just be held online?
It seems on the surface that it does, but I think it is important, the COP. It's basically a moment when world leaders have the spotlight on them, and it puts them on the spot. It puts me on the spot.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you'd be put on the spot a bit less on Zoom. You've got to then go and account to the world. Here's what Britain is doing.
So it wouldn't have the same effect if it was done
I
online?
don't think it would. Just give you one picture. People might say, well, what has COP ever achieved? I'll give you just one example. 90% of the world now has what they call net zero targets for carbon emissions. And when I was doing this job 15 years ago, nobody had a net zero target. It's the big changes we make that make the big difference. And leaders being in a room, face to face, that makes a difference.
Yeah. So do you want everyone to have electric vehicles by 2030?
No, because you've got to have a transition, but we will ensure that we're not selling petrol and diesel vehicles new petrol and diesel vehicles from 2030. I want people to be able to carry on getting them second hand and so on. But we've also got to make it affordable for people.
Exactly.
I wouldn't be able to say this to you 15 years ago because frankly, solar, wind, they were more expensive than fossil fuels. But now, when they're cheaper, why would you stick with expensive, insecure fossil fuels when you can have cheaper, cleaner renewables?
So do you think we're on track to meet the 2050 timeline? Is it likely to happen?
Well, the truth is that when we came to office 4 months ago, I was told we were off track. And I'm trying to get us on track. And it's hard, but I'm confident we can do it. I want future generations to look at what I did and say, he really got the scale of the threat. I think your generation, future generations will look back at us and say, were you the last generation not to get it or the first generation to get it? And I want to be seen as the first generation to get it.